Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Tom Hunter Pratt. I'm the Multimedia Specialist for the Institute of Child Nutrition. I'm going to allow everyone a few seconds to come in. It takes a moment for everyone to get into the webinar. Everyone, as you come in, you will be muted by default. You'll be in listen-only mode. At the end of today's webinar, you'll receive a pop-up asking you to take a quick survey. We value your feedback, and if you don't mind, go ahead and click on that to take our survey. Within 24 hours of the conclusion of the webinar, you'll receive a follow-up email that contains a link to the recording and also a link to the survey if you missed that. You'll also receive a certificate within 24 hours of today's webinar. We'll be emailing those out as well. At the end of each panelist presentation, we'll have a Q&A session. So you'll see at the bottom of your Zoom control panel, you'll see a Q&A button there. Go ahead and click on that and enter any questions you have there, and our panelists will get to you time permitting. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and turn the presentation over to Janae.
Thank you so much, Tom Hunter. Welcome everyone to the STAR webinar. Good afternoon. I'm Janae Owens, an Education and Training Specialist with the Institute of Child Nutrition. Welcome to the November School Nutrition STAR webinar today. We will spotlight many school nutrition staff and unspoken heroes on today's webinar, and you will hear from several panelists on how their teams shift normal day-to-day routines, develop partnerships and collaborations, and increase engagement in the community to continue child nutrition program operations. To assist in meeting the unique training, technical assistance, and professional development needs of school nutrition professionals, ICN has launched the School Nutrition STAR Initiative to provide assistance in developing goals and best practices to improve program administration and operations. The School Nutrition STAR program offers a multitude of elements, including face-to-face workshops, virtual instructor-led trainings, webinars, and spotlight success stories. ICN collaborates with USEA to host monthly STAR webinars to provide attendees with training, real-life strategies of program implementation, and best practices for use in action plans and/or goals. Training topics, free resources, and educational materials are also highlighted to assist school nutrition professionals with navigating through the enhanced responsibilities of school nutrition operations. The Institute has created a website for all materials and resources specifically related to the webinars. You can find this information at theicn.org/STAR. During today's webinar, all attendees are muted. There will be time for questions following each speaker's presentation. If you have a question, please type it into the Q&A box on your screen. We will try to get to as many as possible, but due to possible time constraints, every question may not get answered during the webinar. Individuals who have registered will receive an email at the conclusion of today's webinar. The email will contain the webinar recording link and a link to the evaluation survey. Thank you for joining today's webinar, Stronger Together, Highlights of School Nutrition Heroes Across the Nation. Also, if you notice down at the screen below, we are highlighting school nutrition unspoken heroes. We sent out a social media outlet notification to gather names of the staff who are doing the hard work and being the boots on the ground to be able to be recognized on today's webinar. The topic covered in today's webinar fall under the key areas operation and administration and meet the USDA Professional Standards Code 2000 and 3000. At the conclusion of today's webinar, ICN will send out webinar certificates within 24 hours. One of the panelists joining us for today's webinar is Lauren Couchois. Lauren is new to the Greenville Food and Nutrition Services and joined the team in July 2020. Her role with the Greenville Food and Nutrition Services team includes assisting the senior leadership team with the oversight of all federally funded school nutrition programs, including menu development, nutritional analysis, special dietary needs of students, and coordinating conducting of training programs for district-wide staff development. Lauren also worked with schools to teach students about nutrition education and healthy lifestyles with a focus on farm-to-school initiatives. She is passionate about changing the face of school meals and letting the public know about the amazing work being done on a daily basis. Lauren was previously the director of the school district of Lee County in Fort Myers, Florida, and held various leadership positions at the school district for over 9 years. Lauren is a registered dietitian, received her Bachelor of Science degree in Nutrition and Dietetics from Western Carolina University. She completed her dietetic internship at Indiana University, Purdue University of Indianapolis, and obtained her school nutrition specialist certification in 2016. So later in the webinar, she will share some strategies and methods the Greenville County Schools have adopted to maintain their child nutrition operations. Aaron Smith with the Seattle Public Schools in Washington could not join us today. Aaron and his team have experienced many shifts in their program operations this week and will need all hands on deck to provide school meals this afternoon. There is a short video that I will show later to highlight Seattle Public Schools and the work they are doing. The learning objective for today's webinar, you will recall the methods and strategies school districts throughout the nation adopted to operate child nutrition programs amid the pandemic. At this time, I will shift to spotlight child nutrition program accomplishments and efforts across the nation. So the onset of school closures and amid the pandemic and school transitions with reopening this fall, there have been several child nutrition operators and organizations recognized in their local news outlets. Despite the interruptions and challenges, the call for all boots on the ground has been seen throughout the nation. Many program operators expanded their teams to include other district staff, as well as leaders in the community, and to form those partnerships and collaborative efforts to continue meal service and delivery for children and their families. We have captured 7 of those news stories representing each USDA FNS region. I will highlight several, and there will be 2 panelists joining us today to share highlight of their challenges and accomplishments. During school closure this summer, Lee cook Irene Polish, shown in this picture here, she sometimes wore costumes to connect with children and families. In her local news interview, she discussed the journey of her and the rest of the food service department, having one plan to serve 18,000 meals for the following week, and then coming in on Monday morning with school closures to shift operations to prepackaged breakfast and lunch distributions at 15 sites. To date, they are implementing an all virtual learning platform at all grade levels for their second quarter of the 2020-2021 school year. They offer curbside meal service at 40 school sites for all students enrolled in the Madison Metropolitan School District. Students receive a meal box with all of the components for 5 balanced breakfast and lunch meals that meet the requirements for the National School Lunch and Breakfast Program. Currently on their school site, they serve 39,972 meals the week of November 9th and served 445,797 meals this school year so far. So thank you, Madison Metropolitan School District Food and Nutrition Services. Our next spotlight is Jamestown Public Schools. So Shelley Mack, Jamestown Public School Dietitian Food Service Director, she's in the center there. She stands with staff from the middle school, Melissa Cost on the left and Kathy Henrich on the right, as they wait for parents to pick up bag lunches for students. Jamestown Public Schools of North Dakota experienced an immediate increase in volume of meals served during COVID-19 crisis after implementing an online ordering option. The district's lunch numbers increased the first day of online orders, serving 447 meals. The Jamestown Public School free meal program offers free cold breakfast and lunch on a daily basis and to children 18 or under, regardless of school enrollment status. The program has served more than 1,600 packed meals earlier this year. At that time, the program had 4 pickup sites and has not only made the shift to online ordering, but provide at-home delivery options if a student is unable to get to a drop-off site. The Jamestown Public Schools are now implementing a hybrid instructional plan. All Jamestown Public School students receive free breakfast and lunch, either virtual or in person, and include to-go pickup options. So thank you to the Food and Nutrition Services of Jamestown Public Schools. In Vermont, the New England Dairy Program experts work with school nutrition staff to identify needs in the school's COVID-19 response plans. And some of the challenges identified at the school level included the lack of available cold storage and easy transport options for meals. So far, local dairy farmers have provided funding of cooler bags for 86 different school districts in New England. Local dairy farmers stepped up to support local efforts to serve students via grab and go or home delivered meals by providing school districts with nearly $225,000 in grants and equipment. Included is roughly 1,670 cooler bags for schools across the region to deliver milk to children. Dairy farm families have funded and purchased the distribution of 439 cooler bags to 19 different school districts, supporting over 32,000 students. One of the school districts highlighted was the Harwood Unified Union School District. One of the school's food and nutrition co-director for the district stated that the cooler bags have been a crucial part of their operation from the first day. So thank you to the dairy farm families in that area, and thank you to the Harwood Unified Union School District for your hard work. Our next spotlight is the Conway Public Schools Food and Nutrition Services. They were able to offer parents the opportunity to order foods once a week online and specified if they needed breakfast, lunch, or other items as well. Also, they were able to ask or provide how many days worth of meals they were requiring. The Conway School District are taking a unique approach to boxing up foods for distant learners. Rather than filling boxes with prepackaged foods, the food service workers are cooking and sealing their own vegetables and other foods children would normally be served in the cafeteria. So thank you to the Food and Nutrition Services of Conway Public Schools. All right, another school or school nutrition service program that I will highlight is the Dothan City Schools. So during school closures, they served an average of 177,000 lunches a day, with school reopening on a blended format that averaged 4,459 lunches a day. Pre-COVID, they were averaging at 5,949 meals for lunch for the day. Dothan City School Child Nutrition Program launched the school's first food bus to assist in feeding children during the COVID-19 pandemic. The bus had been named HANK as an acronym for Health and Nutrition for Kids. The bus served hot meals for both breakfast and lunch. Two major changes in their nutrition service operations were portioning and packaging of all items for bag lunch service and wearing masks and limiting interaction with the students. Despite challenging program operations with decreased participation numbers, they are now maintaining operations by packing all meals, which are labor intensive and more costly. But the most successful and silver lining in it all is the staff pulling together to do what's best for students. Thank you to the Food and Nutrition Services of Dothan City Schools. And now we will have a couple of panelists come on to give their own spotlight story. First, we'll have Jamie Baxter. She is the Education Policy Director at Allies for Children, an organization that builds alliances and serves as a bold voice for policy and practice changes that improve the well-being for all children in Allegheny County. Allies for Children, prior to joining Allies for Children, Jamie was a legislative policy director for the Allegheny Intermediate Unit, an education service agency that serves the school districts in Allegheny County. Prior to that, she was a lobbyist in Washington, D.C., focused on advancing funding and policies for career and technical education. After Jamie, we'll have Michelle Drake. She is the Director of Food and Nutrition Services for the Elk Grove Unified School District. She has been with the district for 19 years in her current role as director since 2010. She worked in the corporate restaurant environment for 9 years prior to joining the school district. In her current role, Michelle oversees over 400 employees at 65 school sites in a central kitchen. Her program serves approximately 8.4 million meals annually. Her goal is to provide fresh quality food while still meeting the demand of her customers, which are the students, of course. Her program is seen as an innovator in the field for strong nutrition education, farm to school, and the overall meal programs. And now I will turn the presentation over to Jamie.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. As Janae mentioned, I'm Jamie Baxter, the Education Policy Director at Allies for Children. We are a small organization that focuses on advocating for bold policies that benefit the well-being of children throughout southwestern Pennsylvania, specifically in Allegheny County, the county that includes the city of Pittsburgh and encompasses 43 individual school districts. Our role at Allies for Children is typically a connector, working with school districts, agencies, legislators, and other partners to advance policies at all levels. Our organization focuses primarily on education and health, and the project that I'll discuss today bridged both health and education and has been benefiting thousands of families across our county. So at the beginning of the pandemic, a school district in the eastern part of the county, Penn Hills School District, which borders the city of Pittsburgh, was providing meals at only one site for approximately 100 students per day. This is out of an enrollment of over 3,000 students who all qualify for free and reduced lunch. Due to staffing issues within the school district, the superintendent indicated that additional sites just were not possible. And we knew that the need was there in the community and something needed to be done to ensure families were getting the food they needed to survive. And let me also mention that at that time in Pennsylvania, we had a statewide stay-at-home order, so all schools were virtual at that time as well. So there was a lot of students within the Penn Hill School District that were not able to access any food. Prior to the pandemic, on a separate but now related project, Allies for Children had started working with Carnegie Mellon University here in Pittsburgh to develop bus routes to find efficiencies in transporting students across school district lines. This partnership became vital to the meal deliveries that I'll talk about in a second. And when the pandemic hit, we were ready to pull in Carnegie Mellon University and their bus route developing application. It's important to note that Allegheny County is not a county-wide school system. Instead, there are 43 school districts of varying sizes and wealth, and each have their own transportation and food services systems that rarely, if ever, talk to each other. And in addition, while the city of Pittsburgh is a rather resource-rich area for struggling families and individuals, the other communities throughout the county do not have that same level of support. So in the Penn Hills community, Allies for Children began working with other partners to fulfill the need for food access. So partners included the United Way of Southwestern Pennsylvania, the Greater Pittsburgh Area Food Bank, Allegheny County Department of Human Services, numerous community organizations, a local restaurant chain, Eaton Park, and Carnegie Mellon University. So funding for the project was provided through CARES Act funding and supplemental philanthropic dollars. So using district-provided data on existing school bus stops and taking into account any other community food distribution sites and areas of concentrated needs, such as a housing complex, Carnegie Mellon was able to design bus routes throughout the Penn Hills community. The routes had to be safe for buses or vans to park for at least 15 minutes to distribute food. And they had to have safe walking conditions so that individuals and families and even young children would be able to get to the vehicle safely. The vehicles were provided through the United Way and a county-wide paratransit provider, Access. So as I mentioned, at this point, the project started in July, and so school buses were not running. And also during the shutdown of schools in the spring, a lot of school bus contracts were really in limbo. So utilizing school buses, which would have been our preference, was just not possible and would have created a lot of stress for the districts who were trying to negotiate those contracts. So by pulling in a county provided paratransit provider, this Access, we were able to utilize those vehicles without any disruption or stress on the school district in terms of transportation contracts. So every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, these Access vans, they start their routes by picking up individual and family meals from the local Eaton Park restaurant. And then they drive their assigned routes, which typically includes about 5 stops, and there's about 5 routes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. They are delivering over 3,000 meals a day and have delivered over 250,000 meals since the program began in July. The school district, the Penn Hill School District, continues to service students and at their school building sites. And so we, support that wholeheartedly. And the meal delivery is a way to get students, if they're not in class, 'cause right now Penn Hills is utilizing a hybrid model. So if they're not in the classroom, then they can still access food along these bus routes if they cannot get to the school building. So we're looking at, or we're doing actually a similar meal distribution bus route program in the McKeesport Area School District. And this district is all free and reduced lunch kiddos. So everyone qualifies. For this district, they are able to provide the meals to the students, but we're having a difficult time getting students and families to show up to get the meals. So for this district, the same concept applies that we did in Penn Hills. The only difference is that the meals are coming from both a local restaurant and the school district. So the access vans pick up individual meals and family meals from the local restaurant. Then they go to the school district where they pick up other meals for the students along the routes. We're also in process of beginning another delivery system that will look like the McKeesport one, with the school district providing meals that will be out via bus routes, and then also with a local restaurant supplementing those meals. So we've had numerous challenges as we've gotten this off the ground. Some of those challenges have included, getting the data from the school district on current school buses or pockets of need within the community. And the Allegheny County Department of Human Services has helped a lot with identifying, pockets of exceptional need within a community. We've had challenges in promoting, so it's always kind of slow when we start until we have more folks that are utilizing the service and can get that word of mouth out. And the community and we really rely heavily on community organizations to help promote the event. We've had to make adjustments along the routes. So if there's as we get out and drive those routes, if there ends up being a spot that's not necessarily safe, then we'll have to adjust that. I think, Janae, on the next slide, you can see some of the routes that exist, and this is how they're promoted out. And so anytime there's a little adjustment, whether it's in time or in the actual stop or the cross, then a whole new set of communications has to be out. The ensuring enough food for when a school district goes fully remote has been a big challenge. So right now, as everywhere in the country, but here in Southwestern PA, our COVID cases are really spiking. And so districts are having to shift to a remote learning model very rapidly. And so that means there's going to be a lot more kids along those bus routes that are going to need these meals. So making sure not only the school district can provide some of those meals, but also the local restaurant has the capacity to do additional meals with little notice. But our biggest challenge right now is figuring out how to continue this program when the CARES Act funding expires at the end of the calendar year. So we're advocating, obviously, for a continuation of the funding and on the federal level, and then looking towards other options like additional philanthropic dollars to support the continuation of the project, or thinking of other ways. So those are some of our challenges. Really hoping to get that extension on the CARES Act so that we can continue to service our families. So, and I think I have some time for questions too. So if you have any, please feel free to put them into the Q&A, and I'd be more than happy to answer them. So the CARES Act someone had asked if the CARES Act covers the cost of the family meals, and yes, it does. In the family meals, the school district is not getting reimbursed for those. The school district is getting reimbursed for any of the student meals that go on the buses to go out. The individual meals and the family meals, those are provided through funding through the CARES Act. We try to encourage the district to prepare as many meals as possible so that they can get the most reimbursement as possible. But it's also important that we have, not only these family meals, which serve a family of 4 and can be reheated, but also that the drivers have a number of backpack meals, so meals that don't require refrigeration or anything like that, shelf-stable meals that if a bus runs out or if there's or if someone needs something extra, that those are ready to be distributed as well. And those are also at this point paid through by the CARES Act. So someone had asked if there was a dedicated amount of CARES money that should go to the child nutrition for each school district. That I'm not really sure of. We just want to make sure that any funding that comes down from the federal level is going to allow the continuation and the expansion of this project. So you've noticed I've only mentioned 3 school districts and we have 43. There are a lot more that are in need of a similar service. And as more districts, we're seeing them go back to virtual, that need is going to increase. It really just comes down to the funding and if we're able to continue that and expand that. That's our number one focus. So another question that came through was, how do you know how many meals to plan for? Do people sign up beforehand? So people do not sign up beforehand, and this is always a challenge. So one of the most important things in our model is having a place for leftover meals to go. So especially in the beginning, we seem to always prepare more than people are at the bus stop. And that then eventually shifts to where we end up running out and then have to add some on. So, but in the beginning, we end up with some left until that word of mouth really helps promote the distribution. And so what we've done is either in some cases taken those back to the district where then they'll hand them out to students that were within the school building. We've also taken them to local Meals on Wheels or some shelters that exist within the community. Really any place that is able to distribute those meals in a timely fashion is our number one focus. The food bank also is able to take some back sometimes. So that's really how we kind of get around that, figuring out a number, because it is really tricky and it's always kind of a slower start until it really starts to pick up. So, and I think that about wraps up my time. So again, thank you so much for having me. And if anyone else has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them online or offline. And so now I think I'm going to turn it over to Michelle, who's going to continue the presentation. So thank you all so much and stay healthy and well.
Thank you, Jamie. I am going to share my screen really quickly here. So as Jamie mentioned, I'm Michelle Drake. I'm the Director of Food and Nutrition Services for Elk Grove Unified. And so we are a large school district in Northern California, just south of Sacramento. Prior to COVID, we were serving about 40,000 meals a day. As you can see by the pictures, we tried to focus on colorful, fresh fruits and vegetables and nutrition education. Those are our main emphasis. We offered many hands-on points of service, like salad bars and salsa bars, which will be changing because March 7th happened. Our district was one of the first to close, was the first to close in our community and one of the first nationwide. When I received the call on Saturday, March 7th, that school district was going to close and go to virtual learning, we brought my leadership team into the office. We discussed what some options were, determined our path, and created a drive-through meal pickup program. There was so much confusion in the beginning about COVID, and so we decided we were going to focus on the strength of our team, and our goal was to provide meals to the families who rely on us. We took what we know, or what we knew, and by Tuesday, we had transitioned to a drive-through model. I have to give kudos to the California Department of Ed's Nutrition Services Department, because they were with us from the first moment, working with USDA to provide us the opportunity to use Summer Seamless before any school district needed to work on some waivers and ability for us to transition our processes. Our program made national news, the top trend on the top. A couple of my staff had their pictures in the New York Times. They were very excited. But my staff have really been the true heroes here. They banded together, even with the uncertainties and the ever-changing information around the pandemic, and they made sure we had staff to serve children. Once we realized that this was going to go longer than the 2 weeks that initially was, the thought process behind it, we continued to increase sites, and by April, we had 39 school sites serving meals. We had 4 bus routes, which equaled about 14 sites. And we were working with our local partners like the YMCA and local community centers to provide them meals that they could then serve at their sites. Through April and May, we served approximately 23,000 meals a day. And so that's quite a drop from the 40,000 that we were accustomed to serving. But I consider myself blessed. I have a central kitchen, and my team was able to transition to create prepackaged meals directly out of our central kitchen. We were able to get creative with the foods that we already had on hand, as you can probably imagine, in our warehouse. We also had 65 school sites that had food in their kitchens where they were ready to serve on like a normal service. So we need to collect all that food, repurpose it as best as possible, which was a feat in itself, but my staff was so great and so willing to help. As we started expanding our services, we realized there were pockets of children in our highest need communities that couldn't access the meals that were available at their school sites. And so we worked with our site admin to find where those pockets were, and with our transportation teams, and we built bus routes. And we went into those high need communities and served directly off the bus to those children. All along, my staff have said, what do you need us to do? With all of the changes we're experiencing, flexibility was what we really needed from our staff. We've had to move staff from their school sites. We've changed their contracted hours, just in order to be able to provide food in this manner. We've had to ask employees to come work at our central kitchen. We've asked them to ride on the bus and provide meals that way. Whatever we've asked, they've done, and all while being mindful of the safety concerns and the precautions necessary to keep our employees safe. As we needed to keep our focus on our children and our families as well. So many of our parents said that this meal or the meals we were providing was not just a budgetary asset to them. It was also a sense of calm in all the chaos that was going on. It was a sense of normalcy. It even became part of their routine. Routine is not something that we have gotten into since March. We are in a constant mode of assessment and pivot. Here in Northern California, from the coronavirus to excessive heat that created fires, to smoke-filled skies. We tried to start school under NSLP on August 3rd, to our plans to start in-person instruction that was supposed to happen this Tuesday and didn't. It has been a constant state of change, but I could not have done it without my staff. There are great staff who believe in teamwork and a willingness to serve. I'm a quote type of person. I have quotes all over my office. And the motto for this year is, we can either make it work or we can make it better. And so every time we've had a pivot, we make it work. But my staff have shown time and time again that they endlessly teach us how to make it better. They share great ideas on streamlining processes, how to implement better safety protocols. Anything I could ask, my team has come out with a plan on how to make it better. That doesn't always make it wonderful. Back to school brought a drop in meal counts. Let's just say August was really rough. But with the USDA's extension of the Summer Seamless program, September was better. And we've been able to incorporate our at-risk CACFP program back into the mix. So we're serving right now about 7,700 students a day, which equates to just under 20,000 meals when you look at breakfast, lunch, snack, and supper. Tomorrow, We're going to try something new with school going off for the Thanksgiving break. We'll be handing out a Thanksgiving box to our families as a way to provide for our community while my staff have a time to rejuvenate, but also as a way to increase our meal counts. And both finding a way to help our community as well as increase our meal counts is something we're constantly trying to figure out and want to be able to do both. What's our next phase? Our next phase is in-person instruction along with distance learning, hopefully maybe in January. And even then, with all the plans in the world and all the things we know what to do and how we'll do it, I'm sure many things will change and will be required to pivot. With the increase in COVID cases throughout our communities, keeping our workforce healthy is our top priority. To wrap up, it's the teamwork and the can-do attitude, as well as the ability to pivot that have kept us going. My other motto in life is it's all about how you handle plan B. And Lord knows there have been a lot of plan Bs. With that, I will open it up to any questions that you may have. And let's see if I can get back. Oops, give me a moment here. I'm trying to open my screen so I can see the questions. Oh, let's do this, see if that helps. Okay, I don't see any questions. So at this point, I'm gonna send it to Lauren.
Thank you, Michelle. Sorry there, I had a problem sharing my screen for a second. And still am.
Lauren, see if you can click from beginning there in the top left.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. Again, thank you. I am Lauren Couchois. I'm the culinary specialist with the Greenville County Schools Food and Nutrition Program. And I am very excited to be here and grateful to share our story with you all as we all continue to grow and learn through this crazy time of COVID. So a little bit about Greenville County Schools Food and Nutrition. We have 101 schools and centers. Our enrollment is about 74,000 students. We are the largest county in South Carolina. And on a regular non-COVID year, we average about 3 million breakfasts a year, 11 million lunches. So almost 14 million meals a year that we are usually doing. But then there's COVID. And so it's not all great. And we still have 101 schools and centers, and we still have an enrollment of about 74,000 students, but 23,000 of them have opted to do virtual enrollment this year. And those students are not in our school buildings. So with that said, of course, our average breakfast and lunches are down per day. And we are also operating with 7 different service models of how we are providing meals to our students throughout the district. So some challenges coming with COVID, of course. We've experienced challenges that I'm sure all of you have experienced. This is not unique to just us. This is something we are all going through. And for us, some of our procurement challenges were prepackaged items. COVID hit, we were unsure of how we were going to serve these meals safely to our students, and us and everybody else across the nation was like, oh, we need prepackaged items now. So they were in short supply, and how do we get them and how do we utilize them? We also had issues with our paper goods. We do a lot of service here through bars and eating in the cafeteria on hard trays. And we were not a big district for having paper goods already on hand for things like this. So procuring those paper goods in a timely fashion to be ready to go to serve our students. And we also had residual inventory. This was with our big distributor, items that we were, had in stock ready to go for the remainder of the school year for the 2019-2020 school year that were for our regular menus. And then all of this sudden a shutdown, and we're not doing our regular menus anymore. So the residual inventory in with our big distributor, and how do we utilize those items as well? Then, of course, we had issues and challenges with staffing. The number one priority, of course, was ensuring everybody's safety and how do we get personal protective equipment for everybody. And it wasn't just us, it was the whole nation trying to get PPEs for their staff. So getting that in and then making sure that our staff was utilizing those PPEs correctly as well and following protocols. This was not a thing that we were used to, of having our temperature taken every day and answering COVID questions every day. This was a new procedure for us, and making sure that we social distance in kitchens and following those protocols became so important for us to make sure that we kept our staff and our students safe throughout this process. We also had some challenges with our staff on medical leave. People with pre-existing conditions that could not come in anymore and put us short staff. Those that had family members or childcare issues that they needed to attend to, and they were no longer present with us. These were all major challenges right off the bat. Another big challenge for us was our attendance. This is our destination to return to school with the ultimate goal of being all students back in our school buildings 100% 5 days a week. However, to get there wasn't something we knew we could just jump back into. So this was called our roadmap. It had different steps along the way there. And it really depends on the amount of COVID cases in our county as well within our own school district. So there's a 0 days attendance, which meant that everybody was doing virtual learning. One day we had 25% of our students that did not sign up for virtual in attendance with us. And then we moved from that to 2 days. So the students were divided up by their last name into different groups, and they would come and have full on physical attendance with us on a Monday, Wednesday schedule and being virtual learning for Friday, or a Tuesday, Thursday, and everybody was virtual learning for Friday. Right now, we are somewhere in a hybrid of this. Our elementary schools are back 5 days a week. Everybody, with the exception of those students that are virtual learning right now, and our middle and high school are doing the 2 days a week. So our attendance is challenging to say the least. We have different attendance percentage by grade level. We have our virtual students, as I mentioned, and only our elementary schools that are here 5 days a week. So with that said, we had to come up with very creative and different service models depending on the school. This was not something we could say, oh, this is our serving model and it's going to work for everybody, because everybody's in a different situation. So we do meals in the classroom, meals in the cafeteria. We have kiosks in our hallways. We do take-home meals. And even though those virtual students are not attending in our physical buildings, they're still enrolled with us and we are still providing meals to them. We do this once a week. They come and get meals on Mondays, and it would be for all of the rest of the academic week. So they get a whole week's worth of meals when they come and pick up on a Monday. So that is a lot. That is a lot to overcome. But I promise you, it is not all doom and gloom. There are silver linings and there are challenges to overcome, and the teamwork here is amazing. So let's talk about some of the good stuff. Overcoming our challenges as it relates to procurement. We rearranged our menu to meet our new needs. And amazing kudos to our team here for coming up with a menu that was going to work no matter what our service model was. Our director said that from the beginning, what we're going to do for one, we're doing for all. So let's make it a good menu no matter how we're going to be serving these meals to our students. And we also had to utilize our paper goods that were available to us. This created some challenges for us on how do we get creative and utilize what we have on hand. And we started using things that were not the typical. So we had, for example, we had a French fry bag, and we're like, this would fit a sandwich, and that became a sandwich bag. It allowed the students to still see what we were serving them and provided a nice presentation. Our staffing, the number one thing I can say for overcoming these challenges was leading by example and staying consistent. On top of that, staying positive. It is the biggest thing that I think our team does incredibly well. Stay positive, stay consistent, and lead by example. So we all are sure when we visit our schools that our protective equipment is on properly. There's so much hand washing going on. There always is in school nutrition. And now it just seems like this is beyond, and we're all doing our part to make sure that our students and staff are staying safe. We were also very fortunate that our employees rose to the occasion and most volunteered to move locations temporarily if need be. So some of our schools with all those virtual students still had the same amount of staff, but not the same amount of students. So therefore, we were able to take some of that staff from our schools that had the availability to move them and put them in locations where they may have been short-staffed. With our multiple service models, the number one thing is to collaborate with your principals. They know their schools better than we do, and of course everybody's wanting to protect the children first and foremost, and different principals have different ideas of what's the best way to go about that. So working with our principals and making sure that we were meeting their needs and still keeping our standards high was big. We did have to show some principals that there are models that are working to show that there's effective and efficient ways to feed our students safely that are working at other schools that could work here. So we were very fortunate. We had a principal that went on social media and was our biggest cheerleader to say, hey, this is what we're doing. We're doing it well. Our kids are eating a variety of entrees, getting amazing food, and they are still being safe. And that really helped us spread the word to other schools that there are different models out there that are working. So again, when I say teamwork, I don't just mean our department, I mean our district as a whole, and coming together and staying positive have been the number one contributor to helping us overcome these challenges. So when it comes to preserving our meal service, we kept our standards very high. Food quality was at the forefront of everything we did, and we made sure no matter what we were doing that food quality was exceptional. And we did not sacrifice our food presentation just because we were serving in a bag. We do have some schools that do that. However, the presentation of the food prior to it going into the bag and the bag itself, I mean, we're very strict. They cannot crumble that. It is served over with integrity. It looks nice and it is presented very well. Again, working with our principals to ensure that our students are served safely and letting them know that we have their interests at heart as well and doing everything we can. And then communication. It is so important to keep everybody up to date and in the loop of what is going on so that there isn't anything that they're not ready for or prepared for. We do this weekly with virtual meetings. Our department has a meeting every week, and we also have our supervisors meet with their schools in their zone weekly via Zoom to keep them up to date of any new procedures that we may have and reminders that we may need to put out there. And we're also out in person with them. If they're out there doing it, we can too, and we visit daily with all of our schools to show them that we care about them, we appreciate them, and to make sure that our standards are being held as well. And then another form of communication for us is social media. We love sharing our story. It's hard. I think people don't don't understand exactly what goes on in school nutrition in general, but school nutrition during COVID, people were a little confused of how that may look like. So we shared our story with our public and let them know, look, this is what's happening at your schools with your students. And all I can say is that has been a tremendous help for us, letting everybody know all the amazing, wonderful things that we are doing. So there are some great things that we do here that have been, going above and beyond in such an uncertain time. And we are incredibly fortunate to have amazing partnerships within our county. We have just recently partnered with one of our restaurant groups here called Larkins, and they are currently providing 6,800 weekend meals to 9 of our schools here. That was a great partnership that we developed with them through Live Well Greenwell. Live Well Greenwell is an organization that promotes healthy eating and active living, and they put us in touch with these restaurant groups and have helped us coordinate these meals to our students on the weekends. And we have a new restaurant joining us just tomorrow for the first time as well. So we hope that that program expands and grows as well, because it's so important what we're doing during the week, but that these children have weekend meals too. And then of course, grants. All I can say is apply for everything. It doesn't matter what the grant is, we are applying for it. As I'm sure we know, all the panelists have mentioned today that this is a crazy time and our participation is not what it is in a normal school year. And this has been a challenging year for a budget, just to say the least. And so applying for grants, no matter what they are for, and making sure that you put that money to good use for your students is incredibly important. So grants have been coming in, I would say, and I'm sure all of you have seen those come through, and apply for them. It's going to help our department tremendously. So another thing we do that is I think unique to Greenville and absolutely amazing is we have the most wonderful team for our barbecue team. You can see in that picture there with one of our chefs, that is our traveling smoker. And they go around and they do about 1 to 2 schools a week. And we hold these special events for the barbecue team to come and do a menu takeover at these schools. It is definitely special. It is so phenomenal. The kids appreciate it. Our school staff loves it when we pull up, but it also helps build community engagement and let them know that we are going above and beyond for their students. I cannot say enough about this team that makes this work. They are absolutely phenomenal, and they come with a great skill set to make this work and make it work really well. Another thing we have done this year that I think is really something anybody can do, especially during COVID, is highlight your farm to school. We have done a lot to do more procurement of local goods this year, and we're in South Carolina. But that doesn't mean that we can't go just above our border. You know, we're very fortunate. We've been working with orchards in North Carolina this year. So when we say local, that doesn't mean just our state, it's our farms nearby. And that therefore we've been able to expand our menu offerings of local goods to our students. We've also had great partnerships with the State Department, South Carolina Farm Bureau, and South Carolina, or Certified South Carolina, that has helped us get education materials to our schools so that they can not only come down and get a meal that is loaded with local items, they can take farm to school back into the classroom. And that is just so important in a time where things seem like we can't do these extras. We absolutely can. We are also very fortunate to have been able to hold farm to school events. So we do amazing things with our menus, but we also have been able to hold these events with our children. It's educational, it's fun, it is something you can do with great partners easily and make it cost effective. And we're just so fortunate that in our area, all of these people have the same passion we do to bring the community together, to do everything we can for our kids and give them something a little bit special and something that might be a little bit normal in a regular school year for them and bring that normalcy back to them. So for us, this was something we were able to do. And if you are able to do something similar to this, better than this, whatever it may be, I highly encourage you to do it and find what works for you and just roll with it. It'll be a nice little treat for you, your staff, and the students as well. So our overall message is definitely be positive, keep your standards high. Do not let COVID deter you or make you think you can't do what you were doing before. Find a way to make it work. You absolutely can do it. Be creative, work with your team, be sure to communicate with everybody from your department to your schools to your community as well. And again, find what works for you and just roll with it, and great things will come about. I'm absolutely sure of it. So that is it for my presentation. I am happy to open it up and take questions now, if there are any. And Janae, if you can see the full screen, I have lost my full screen to see if there are any questions. Oh, there we go. Okay, thank you so much. There is a question for all of us, and there is one specific here for the traveling barbecue team. Is there a volunteer team or a paid staff? Nope, that is our staff. It's a unique group of people from various backgrounds. We have a pastry chef. We have 2 chefs in restaurants that did everything from hotels to restaurants. And they're just amazing with everything they do, but they are our food and nutrition staff. And then there is another question here for all of us. What kind of technical assistance, best practice, or models did USDA provide to your school food service to address the challenges of the pandemic, and what was most helpful? If any of the other panelists want to join me in answering this, that is absolutely fine. I will say for Greenville, we are very blessed with an amazing State Department here that has been very open in their communication and answering questions for us. Of course, the waivers that we have that have come into place, that have been extended, none of us, I'm sure, can say how monumental that is for all of us to be able to do what we do in such a budget crunch year with crazy different models that we're doing and different safety measures in place to ensure that our students still get these amazing meals. And if there are any other questions, I am happy to answer those as well. We have one here. Where did you find the kids to do your farm to school activities, since most are doing distance learning? So we only lost about 30% of our students. So the majority are still in attendance with us and doing these. That one event that you saw in those photos there was with one of our child development centers. We have an amazing assistant principal there who is a farmer herself and really helped us utilize her animals. We have an amazing kitchen manager, and shout out to Amanda, who also brought her animals there and has a passion for farm to school, so that we could utilize these animals as well as some of her eggs to have this educational opportunity with those students. It was a little different, as we did try to social distance and make sure everybody wore their mask and sanitize throughout. But that was one of our locations there. It was at a child development center. And if there are no other questions, I thank you all so much. Wish you best of luck in this school year, and I'll now turn it back over to Janae.
Thank you so much, Lauren. All right, now I would like to share an update from the Seattle School District. I'm gonna give my screen a time to react. There we go. So before I share the video, I have some updates on the meal service at Seattle Public Schools. So they serve over 3 million meals since the start of COVID. It is just a little more than 2 months into the 2020-2021 school year, and the number of students receiving meals from Seattle Public School continues to grow. As of the second week in November 2020, the SPS Nutrition Services Department is distributing an average of around 30,000 meals per day, which represents the highest number of distributed meals since the schools were closed last March due to coronavirus. The meals include breakfast and lunch meals for students, as well as a new program featuring fresh fruits and vegetables. And now I will show a video.
I know that when I have been to sites, I have had families, borderline tears, really thanking us that this is, they lost their jobs, they were laid off, and this is the only meal that they have available for their family. It's something like I get goosebumps and tears just thinking about. So we are at Rainier View Elementary, one of our 40 meal sites that we have opened for this new school year. Knowing that our families and students come from a really diverse background, it's really important that we diversify our menu. Towards the end of last year, we really had to pivot and make changes to our meal program. When this pandemic hit, it really brought upon us very uncertain times. And I want to make sure that, the students and family still feel that comfort, that stability. They still are able to come and get items that are familiar to them. We opened up the school year with items such as duck spring rolls, barbecue briskets and grits, shredded beef burrito, and in the coming months we're going to have items such as the Somali chicken stew. We have a smoked salmon chowder that's going to be made with lots of local ingredients from local farmers and producers. So from the start of the 2021 school year, in the beginning of September, we have served 230,000 meals to students. We serve meals at our 40 meal sites. We also have bus routes. We serve to daycares and shelters. We have a direct delivery to home partnership that we do with Amazon as well.
We've been here and we are here for the community. We know it's difficult. We know it's hard. We are even going through it. And so what we are providing is something that we know others need because we need it as well.
It's really important that we continue to provide this food service to families and continue to eliminate the opportunity gap For a lot of families, this is the only meal that their student has for the day. And when the pandemic hit, that was put at risk, and we really wanted to make sure that that service still continued and that these students, begin their day with fresh, healthy, culturally diverse meals.
It feels good when they come up and smile, and the kids know you and the parents know you. And so just the joy of someone being able to feed their family or feed their child, it's important.
And before we end today, let's start from this slide here. So I'll have to go through. We have a polling question that we would like your feedback on. So ICN has received a lot of feedback regarding health and wellness being a concern for operators across the nation. So we would like you to participate in this poll, and we would like your feedback. Question is, would you be interested in participating in self-care and wellness opportunities provided by ICN? And we're going to give a few more seconds for people to respond to that. Still have a few more votes to get in. Okay. So our results are in, and it seems that there are 66% of you who would be interested in participating in self-care and wellness opportunities. That's really helpful with us planning for the next year. We really appreciate you participating in that poll. Thank you. So before I conclude today's webinar, I just have a few announcements that I would like to share with you. So we are still receiving submissions for resources to our child nutrition sharing site. It is an online information center providing child nutrition programs. We are turning to you, our boots on the ground, and asking for food safety related submissions to the child nutrition sharing site. You can visit that at theicn.org/CNSS. We also have launched the Child Nutrition Recipe Box, which provides program operators with recipes to prepare healthy and delicious meals that meet meal pattern requirements. You can also check that out on the ICN.org website at CNRB. We are still running our virtual instructor-led trainings, open registration. There are spaces still available for free interactive virtual instructor-led trainings, which will be taking place in January. And so you're able to register for that through December 7th, through now to December 17th. You can visit the ICN website at theicn.org/BILT, BILT, for more information. The Food Buying Guide online course series has been launched as well. This is intended to provide instruction that will assist users in the use of the USDA Food Buying Guide. The courses will provide useful information about the functions of the FBG and allow users to become familiar with the resource and its features. The FBG is available online as an interactive web-based tool, and it is compatible with the mobile app, and downloadable printable PDF. Just a few reminder before I end today's webinar. It has been recorded, and you can view it at the ICN website at theicn.org/star. Please remember to complete the evaluation at the end of the webinar. I want to give a huge thank you from the ICN team to everyone who's on. Thank you for attending, to the program operators and supporting organizations and community members who served as boots on the ground throughout this year. Thank you so much for your service and the work that you have done to feed our nation's children. With that said, thank you to our panelists once more. To the attendees, thank you for joining. And this concludes today's webinar. Have a great day.